I thought those were red and white
All righty.
or yellow jumpsuits.
Are we ready?
Okay.
Mr. Clerk, are we recording? All right. Good evening. We'll now call the City Council special meeting to order for April the 30th at 6 p.m. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Father, we thank you for this meeting tonight. We thank you for this opportunity to meet together and share our ideals. Father, we just ask that you would lead us and guide us, Father. Ask that you would give us wisdom tonight, Father. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Mr. Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Councilmember Gray,
Here.
Councilmember Spurlock,
Here.
Councilmember Sutherland,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Here.
Mayor Anderson.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We have nothing under consent agenda or citizens and outside agencies, so we will move on to our one and only item, which is preparations for the city's 2019 Christmas lighting and decorations. David, did you have anything to start off with, or what?
I do not. We've got the agenda there. I've put a little brief packet in front of you
Okay.
of some Christmas ideas that I had solicited online a few months ago, actually back in February. And I have a packet for you from Anna Marie Feeney on Christmas on the Mall coming up November 26th through January 1, just so you have that. There's 4 decorations that they've got there. It's on the front there. These are all pole-type lights. We did a count, and I apologize, I wrote it down on my desk today. We did a count of how many poles we actually have. There are, I want to say there's 42 of the tall Duke Energy poles, and there's like 80 of the black ones that are on the interior of the mall.
I think it's 64.
64?
I might be wrong, but I thought it was 64.
And it could be. I'm going by memory right now, and it's not good. Robert told me that all of the black poles, the vintage poles, have the ability to have power at the bottom of them. He said they usually wrap those every year at Christmas time anyway. He said there's probably a dozen of them that are not working right now, but it's an easy fix. And he said the ones further up on the west end of the mall that may not have the electrical outlets in them, it's easy to put them in. He said it wouldn't take much at all to take care of that. So we have the ability to light all of the vintage type poles, and the regular light poles, of which there's 40-something of those, we could do those as well with some of these ideas if you want to. Now, these are costly, and bear in mind, this was just one thing that I got back in February.
David, I have a question.
Sure.
Are we considering all of the black poles, like the ones on the south side as well? Because I do know they do not have electrical plug-in thing.
I think they have it at the top.
No, last year, according to, what's his name?
Robert.
Robert, he said that that's what he told me. Because I asked, are we going to put decoration around those on the south side, the lights?
Uh-huh.
And he said those on the south side did not have electrical plug-in things.
But it can be adapted to that rather easily.
That's what you just said. That's
Yep.
my first time hearing that. So
Yep.
that's good.
So we can make that happen.
Okay.
I don't think we had lights on the poles on the north side of Main Street either, correct?
The ones going up Lake Avenue?
Yeah,
Did not. It was
Yeah.
just on Main Street.
so, I mean, I don't care if you want them on the south side, I just think that.
Well-
There's some on Lake Avenue.
Was there?
Yeah.
There's regular light, but not Christmas lights were added.
No, but there's black decorative poles on
Yeah.
Lake Avenue.
Right.
They're just.
Okay, I thought you meant,
No.
were they decorated?
That's
No,
what I meant,
no,
if they
oh, no,
weren't
no.
decorated.
Right.
And so,
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me, everybody has their own opinion, I just thought we would basically just gear towards Main Street. But if
Right.
you want to go north and south, and then that's somebody else's opinion, that's fine, but
I think what we've done in the past is something similar to that garland idea, the second one from the left there. I think that's what you've done.
And these are the ones that you're talking about putting on the concrete poles?
no. they're
No,
not.
that's the vintage pole.
On the decorative ones?
Right.
Right. I think the big question is, how much
Money.
money do we have to work
Yeah.
with?
Yeah.
We can spend all the money in the world on this.
Well, and here's where I would ask, can CRA funding be used for that?
At the last meeting, the city attorney said yes, because that was a question that I had posed. As long as you're not spending all of your money on this type of thing, then you're okay. And
Right.
it contributes to the, walkability, which contributes to the bricks and mortar of buildings where people are shopping and conducive to that.
Right.
Sure.
So that would be okay.
Which is what we've done in past years.
Yeah, and I don't know how much was spent in the past, but I'm just going to give you a little brief history on what we had done in the past that
Go
seemed to
ahead.
work. And I'll give an example of 18 East, the restaurant there. There used to be an electrical panel in the Jacaranda Mall that whenever Dave Allstock opened up his restaurant, he would go outside, he'd turn on the lights to that mall, and then when he closed up shop at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, he'd turn off the lights. Anyway, that panel was removed for whatever reason. So now the lights in that particular mall remain on all the time, and I'm talking about the ones in the tree. I know that what was put in the tree was about $3,600. Those were like $50 per orb.
Yeah.
So I would like, just me, I prefer to see banners on our poles because I think they're easier to remove. There's not that much maintenance to them, and I would rather see the actual trees and that sort of a thing decorated. It just has a bigger impact to me than lighting up a pole. And there's different ways to go about that. But if we could put those types of lights that we have in the Jacaranda Mall that aren't necessarily Christmas lights, but they can be used throughout the entire year, they're LED, they're easy to replace, then why can't we put those in front of the restaurants so that, and I know that the restaurant owners, because I've spoken to Little Italy as well, and they said that they'd be happy to go in there and turn the panel light on and off. They have a key. And they would be, because they're there every night. So what better person to turn them on and off than the business that's right there? But, and if they're LED, they don't suck up a lot of power anyway.
Correct.
But we have used strands galore. They on the south side. They've had to go in there and cut them out every 5 years because they'll just put strand over strand. A strand dies, you're putting another one in there, and then you just have this mess of just strands. So I was in the Alamo a few years ago, and they don't have strands and strands. They just have one big light shining up on different branches, which has this really neat impact appearance to it, that they change colors for Christmas, and then during the rest of the year, they're just white. So I personally would like to see something that's there all year long, not necessarily just for Christmas time, and if they are LED, then they can change color. But the days of wrapping the trees, I think, just doesn't work because you've got all the wiring to it. It over too much electricity. What is it? It shorts out. They get run over by the mowers. There's extension cords and stuff, and there's just so much infrastructure that to take one strand out, you have to take them all out. Annie's here tonight, and I know at one point she went in there with a bucket truck about 7 years ago and cut out hours and hours and hours and dozens of light strings and stuff. So if we get away from that and putting them in the big trees and just maybe wrap the bottom, that would be nice. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm going with the orbs, if you want something more decorative for those. I also can say that Kenny Long did an experiment that no one noticed. At the tippity tip of Highway 27 and Main Street, he had done what I had seen at the Alamo, and one night he went over there and he put some infrastructure in there and had the lights illuminating those palm trees from the bottom shooting up. And then the trees were removed because they were diseased. But for about 1 week, those lights were there, and I was the only one that noticed it. But that's because no one knew about it when it got done. But something like that, I think, would be really, really impactful. Those are just ideas that I think, the CRA had planned on doing banners at one point that maybe you can change them out seasonally, Christmas theme, maybe Easter theme, or Avon Park theme or something that just has a little floaty thing. I know that all the lights on Museum Avenue have electric on them, and they're a lot taller, and their little thing is at the top. The power access is at the top of the pole.
Right.
I'm surprised that the ones on Delaney don't have it because,
It may be, but I'm just saying
Yeah,
what he
'cause-
told me now. I
yeah.
didn't know-
Anyway, if they're adjustable, I think that would be great because the goal was to have all of those lampposts to have some form of electric. But anyway, my whole thing is for the businesses that are willing and able to turn the lights on and off when they open and close, then why can't we do something on those particular malls or put them on a timer? But the other issue also is that we're not really good at maintaining our landscaping. We just aren't. There's not a lot of time for that. And in order to have a beautiful mall, the lights would be nice, but during the daytime, you won't see the lights. And during the daytime, you can see that many plants are diseased. There's no plan for maintenance. We don't have a schedule on when to fertilize this one, when to trim that one, how never to cut this one, and how to trim this one. We don't have a plan like that, and there was one that was done by Crossan. He did it at no charge and talked about, when to fertilize all these different things, and he did it for nothing, so you might want to contact him and see whether or not he'd be willing to provide that info again. But we have at least 2 people inside the city limits that are willing to help with trimming them correctly. There are blueberries around town that were planted to be in the shape of a Christmas tree, and now they've kind of turned into balls, and I don't know if it's too late to turn them into those shapes. But if those things aren't maintained throughout the year, then your lights are just going to look like something that was just thrown together at the last minute, and it just
Right.
won't have that appearance. But, I vacationed a lot in the last 5 years, and everywhere I go, wherever there are lights, it draws a crowd. And I think that if we can do specific malls where there's specific businesses at first that are open late at night, that lends itself to the ambiance, then that would be good. Downtown Philadelphia, for example, and I know we're not there, has a parking garage that has lights that change color every 5 seconds. And it's gradient colors. And they've got people sitting outside on the sidewalk looking at this parking garage lights. So that's just a totally, you can do that to buildings here as well, and it's an inexpensive way, in my opinion, to go about it. And if they stay up all year, they're easier to maintain as long as they're not the endless lights. But, I know that a couple of years ago, we had some citizens that were willing to talk about landscape issues and how to change some things and plant the right thing. But there again, you can't do that unless your infrastructure, irrigation is good. The mall's a moving target, and I
Yeah.
remember one year there was an assessment done on it, and an average of about $20,000 is spent on that mall. At least it was then on water consumption, which is drinking water, because we don't have, reuse water.
Right.
So all those expenses have to taken into account. But anyway, my thing is, if we do lights that stay on all year long, not necessarily during Christmas, and maybe some lights that do change color during the holidays, make them pink during breast cancer month, or green during, or red during Valentine's or whatnot,
Sure.
then it could really make a difference. I'd like to point out that Joni Hart is here tonight, and she was really helpful in figuring out the orbs that we put out in front of the Jacaranda Mall. I've gotten so many people tell me how beautiful they are. And I mean, we all have ideas of what we'd like to see, but I just think that less is more. And as long as we can maintain the mall, maintain Veterans Triangle, maintain our little parks, and make them walkable to where they're pretty during the day, then you're just going to have that double impact at night. So I don't know what it's going to cost, but like I said, the ones in front of the Jacaranda were upwards of $3,600 just for those round lights. They don't have to be of that magnitude. Maybe they could just be a light here or there in a branch. And there are pieces of equipment that do that, that's on a timer or whatnot. But if we've got businesses that are willing to turn them on and off, then that'll save our staff from having to do that.
Or we could put them on a photocell.
Or
also.
photocell.
Yeah. Go back to the idea that you were telling me about where you have a light just shining up from the bottom of the tree.
All you have to do is, it's like a girdle.
Yeah.
A girdle made out of the same color as the tree trunk itself, and there's a piece of wood and a piece of wood, so that way it doesn't damage the tree. And
Right.
all it is a light shining up.
Just a
up.
spot. Just a spotlight.
Just a spotlight. And if you put them underneath the palm trees, it just illuminates that palm tree it's beautiful. And the Alamo has had it now for decades. And I mean, they hardly ever move them because the tree only grows from the top. It doesn't grow from the middle. I mean, they might get a little bit of girth, but not to the extent that you're changing them on a yearly basis. But that's easy to maintain. It's one wire, one light, versus a bunch of wrapped ones that, when half of them go out, you've got half on, half off, half on.
Right. Well, that's something that we can certainly look at doing with a development plan for year-round.
Yeah.
As far as the holiday seasons, I like the idea about having different types of banners for different months, and so I like that idea. Do one for springtime, autumn, fall festival type things and all that.
And those can be, they're like $40 or $50 a banner. They're not cheap, but you don't have to put one on every single pole. You can put one on the north end of every mall. Or, on or opposite ends of each mall, or just where it's staggered. Because if you do it on every single one, then it's going to get cumbersome.
Right.
What I would need is some direction from council on kind of a target budget number and how far down the mall you want to do it. You want to do it on each section? You want to do it on each side of each section? Give me some ideas of
Yeah.
what you're looking at.
Well, you're not going to get all this done in 1 year.
No.
No.
So, we need to start somewhere.
Mhm.
And it seems to me that we have something started there in front of the Jacaranda. We have a good opportunity in front of City Hall. There was a lot of talk about in front of the community center. So we need to just pick a few areas to focus on.
Mhm.
Now, my main thing is I like everything to be symmetrical. It needs to be one theme throughout. So if you're going to put banners, they need to be not
Consistent.
They need to be consistent.
Right.
If we're going to do lights, we need to do lights the same way all the way through, as far as on the poles or anything like
Yeah,
that.
I agree.
And then we can pick certain areas to focus on to go above and beyond. But we don't want to have
What we don't want to have
hodgepodge,
is
mix, match.
a white light on one pole on one
Yep.
mall, and then the other three having colored lights with
Yeah.
different sizes. I mean, it was
Right.
just like, okay, we've got a box here, and we'll just throw it together.
Right.
There's got to be a
Consistent.
uniformity.
Yeah.
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 Now there is, the moving lights that you see that broadcast like on people's houses
Yep.
and things like that. Obviously, that goes a long way with just a small light. We do have some pretty large facing buildings on Main Street that you could broadcast stuff like that on, or in the trees, things like that. Might be something to look at. I'm talking about that, like kind of like almost like a laser show.
Yeah.
It broadcasts different things
Yeah.
up, and you can do that into a canopy of trees. You can do
Mhm.
it onto a building. Anything. You obviously don't want to put anything that's going to face traffic.
No, but our code does not allow by, what is it, 4.01, section M, I think it is, you
Mhm.
cannot have moving lights on the C4 district. So I don't know if that's going to be something that we're going to have to contend with, but I know that the ones that I've seen in other communities, they just stay fixated.
Hmm.
And all they do is just change color, but they don't move around the tree. They just gradually change color.
Mhm.
They're all over Fort Lauderdale on Las Olas Boulevard. It's a real inexpensive way to have a big visual impact.
Yeah. I like the orbs. Definitely like what they did with the orbs there in front of the Jacaranda. It looks
Yeah.
very classy, elegant.
that really
We
is.
need to probably expand on that quite a bit. I don't know if they're willing to do anything more in the future. I know at one time they were talking about expanding that a little bit. Do you guys have any interest in that? If you don't mind coming up to the microphone.
Joni has a bad name.
Oh.
You're talking about, I'm Rosie Longenecker. I'm with Mrs. Hart. I help her do work.
Microphone.
Just move it.
You guys are the ones who put the orbs up? in
No,
front of
the city
Jacaranda?
put those orbs up, but
City
these two got together and figured out which ones. There's two different size orbs out there.
Yeah.
Got it.
Just,
And
yeah.
they are lit at all times, and they are LEDs. Now, you can get different colors that'll give you different whites that'll give you different effects. Those are cool white, and if you put a warm white light with that, it'll make that warm white look like it's gold, and the cool whites will look white,
Like a
bluish white.
champagne. Yeah, the other one's like a champagne.
Right, I do that on our Christmas trees. Right.
Okay. So that
I
was
mix the
that was
lights.
funded by the city?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All they
that
had
was
was
done by the city.
$3,600.
Got it.
And the you were talking about lighting in the trees. You can do those with solar spotlights, and they don't cost hardly anything. The solar spotlights, and then you don't have to worry about somebody turning them off and on, because they come on when the sun goes down, and they go off when the sun comes up.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with those is they don't work great in shaded areas
Right.
because of where the
Trees.
the
Yeah, but
solar
if
panel
you're
itself-
doing your palms, then you don't have to worry about that.
Correct.
Now,
Right.
if you're in an oak tree, you're going to need more than one or two anyway, so you're going
Right.
to have to really, do something like that. But to do a couple of big oaks, or just to do like that whole section, and maybe where the gazebo is,
Yes.
do that all in orbs. You don't necessarily need to do orbs all the way,
No.
because that would be just
Expensive.
that, and it would be, I think, too much to look
Well,
at.
and that was the thing about, the restaurants, to have the restaurants have something in front of them that kind of lends themselves, hey, we're open because the orbs are on,
well, why don't you do this and get all the businesses involved and have them decorate the facades of their buildings and run a contest to whoever gets the most, they get a prize of $100 or $50 or something.
Yeah, but we're trying to focus on the mall
But
specifically.
that is the mall. That is the mall. You
Well,
wanna
maybe
bring
the
people-
chamber can put on an event like that, because advertising all of that stuff and getting the businesses involved, I think, would
You
be something
you're
that
gonna
perhaps
have
now
to.
that they're working on a contract with the city, that they could go ahead and work on that for them. I mean, you know, I feel like I'm just doing all the blabbing here, but I don't know if the rest of you have input. But the orbs thing, I mean, I think that they had a beautiful impact. It really
They did.
lends them, they just look beautiful. And to me, they look really great in an old oak tree. Those orbs are exactly what Rocco's Tacos puts around in their restaurants. If you ever go to one in Orlando or in Miami, that's what they have. And they're just really, everyone wants to sit underneath the trees.
Well, that's why they put them there, was
Yeah.
because that is an area where everybody sits
Right.
all the time. You know, that's a used area.
And
And
if
we are
it-
going to do something else in the mall before the Jack, in front of the Jack. We started rather late last year.
Yeah.
And so we're working on some other ideas. And I think you should take 1 or 2 malls at a time. It'll take years to do this. And I know you all know this, but just think about the 3 cities in Highlands County. Who has the advantage that we do?
Oh.
Sebring has the Circle, but just the Circle. Lake Placid has Devane Park, but you have to drive all the way through Lake Placid to get to it. I mean, the possibilities here are endless. We're growing, not as fast as Winter Haven or the counties around us, but we will grow. It's
Yeah.
going to happen. And this mall could be an absolute, unbelievable advertisement for this city. And then your businesses will start taking place. And I've got some great ideas for parking on the mall too. These are all things to come in the future, but you need to be planning for the future, really.
Yeah.
And the mall really is a wonderful tool, no doubt about it.
So, David, we have to find out which ones have the capacity to put all this electrical in that won't get run over by the mowers, because not every tree is close to an electrical outlet. And I know that the mall, for example, in front of Little Italy, which has those beautiful squiggly oaks, the power, there was an extension cord and it just got mowed over, and there are still lights, I think, in those trees, but they're not on because the power isn't close to them. I can't remember if the lights are still strung in there or not. It may still work, but
Could you take the extension cords and put them in a PVC pipe or poly pipe and just stick it 3 inches under the ground and be done with
And-
it? You know,
yeah.
trench it and put it under the ground?
something like that,
I mean,
obviously.
that's why I've got all my
Yes.
my irrigation run in my yard.
Yeah, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right.
Extra labor, but it's
It's worth it. In the long run, it's worth it.
definitely,
Yep.
So, yeah, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. We're not going to do it cheesy.
yeah. And I don't know how much money you got, but we've got some great ideas.
Don't know how much money we got, but you'd love to spend it, right?
Let me just say also
And
that,
maybe we can get some donations toward this.
there you go.
Right.
I mean, we really should work on that.
Let me just say also that Rosie was in my office a few weeks ago and handed me a design for not the very tip of the mall, but what we call the pizza slice,
Uh-huh,
which is the turn lane going up to the north side. She handed
The
me a
blue
landscape.
star marker.
yeah.
Yeah, we're the Blue Star thing. She handed me a design that she came up with in using all native plants, which would be rather inexpensive to do, and it's a really, really neat idea. So,
Rosie, I don't know if you know what you've got here. She is a master gardener.
yeah, I see that.
She can plant a garden,
Mhm.
and a garden that can grow in Florida with the least amount of maintenance.
That's what we're
You need to
looking
use
for.
her- You need to use her.
I am.
The Founders Garden Club, Avon Park Founders Garden Club, had approached a year ago to landscape that Blue Star marker because the Blue Star marker is
A blue star mark.
it's a going thing for the National Garden Clubs of the United States.
Mhm.
They started that, and we maintain that marker. We've redone it a couple of times, and we were going to put the landscaping around it till I found out that they were going to tear it up for 2 years. But the everything we're going to put in there, once it's established, doesn't need water.
Right.
It doesn't need any water. And that's how you should approach I think that's how you should approach your mall. You've got some beautiful sections. They just need to be cleaned. I know that I think you're still using the prisoners, aren't you, to clean?
Somewhat, yes.
I mean, if just like out in front of the Jack where the caladiums are,
Mhm.
pull the weeds.
Yeah, a little guidance.
You know, that's all you have to do, and you can make up at the other end where all those trees are and everything. They're pretty trees. They just need to be cleaned. They just need to be cleaned. It's not a hard thing to do.
A couple times a year.
That's it.
I mean,
But
that's,
it-
you know what, that's part of the maintenance thing, I think.
Yeah.
You know, look, a couple of trees were trimmed, butchered horribly about a year ago, and I remember sending an email to the city manager asking if they were going to do that to all the trees, because it was horrible. They just chopped it at the neck. and then some sprigs grew out, and you can tell which one it is. But those crepe myrtles out there were about $800 a piece when they were installed. And, you know, it's an investment, and there's electrical at the bottom of every single one of those, which
Those
was
should have
intended
lights
for
at
lighting.
Christmas time.
So, you know, if just one light was on each one, that would, to me,
That would
have
be
a good
gorgeous.
impact.
That
You
would be
wouldn't have to
gorgeous.
wrap every single branch, you know, it's really time consuming. But that one light, you could change the bulbs out depending on the holiday.
That's
But
right.
that would be inexpensive, but the infrastructure's already there. But that's only on the east side of the railroad tracks, wherever those trees are, because that was a project along with museum. Anything west of the railroad tracks doesn't have that, so it would likely end up being the mall. But I just keep going back to the maintenance issue. We can buy and invest everything we want, but if that mall doesn't look good during the day and it only looks good at night, you know, it's just not enough for me. I would rather make sure that we have the right fertilizer, the right
Why haven't we
Amendments.
fertilized them all? And why haven't we sprayed those crepe myrtles with arsenic or copper or something to get that ball moss out of them? Because it doesn't matter, it's gonna kill them just as bad as what
Yeah,
she's
that's a sign
grumbling
of a
about.
stressed tree is when you start
Yeah.
getting that stuff there.
You don't want to spray them with copper, because then you've got dead
Dead balls.
dead grass up there, and you still have to pull it.
I'm talking, do what now?
If you're talking about the Spanish moss in the trees,
I'm talking about spraying ball moss that's in the crepe myrtles only,
Right.
not the Spanish moss. No.
But
That
if-
won't hurt them, but the ball moss
Will.
actually sucks out of the plant.
right, and if you spray that, you still have to go up and take the dead out, or
No,
you're
it
going to
won't.
be
It'll
looking
fall.
at. No, it doesn't.
All right, we're worried about Christmas decorations, not landscaping at this current moment.
I want to ask a question now.
Go ahead.
I don't know if any of you have watched the parade from the veranda of the
Jacaranda.
Hotel Jacaranda, looking down. The street looks very dark.
Yes.
Looks like there's not enough light when that parade is coming by. Really?
Yeah.
It-
I agree with that.
What can we do about
Lights were
that?
out.
One thing you can do, I know.
Lights?
You
Yeah.
know,
But
Duke
what-
Energy offered to
Yeah.
change the lights on Main Street and upgrade them to the LED more brighter lights, like a
Yeah.
daylight bulb. And they would do it, they could do a section at a time. And that, I know that I talked to the engineer and said that could be done, which would probably triple the brightness of the light
Yeah.
on Main Street.
Would
which
make the
I-
whole parade look
I agree
better.
with you 100%. When that parade comes down, then you can hardly see anything coming.
true.
Sometimes you can't, because they don't have the lights on the vehicles.
You don't see
You
them.
can't even see some of the kids in the street
You
till they get right up
cannot.
in front of you.
You're absolutely
So
right.
I think it would be a good investment to talk to Duke Energy just to brighten those lights that the city has on the mall itself. Other than that, as far as the decorations, I don't know anything about decorations. I think that's Anna Marie's skill. I think what she's doing is great. I think maybe we could upgrade them, make them a little bit more modern, but other than that, I think the only thing this council should look at is like putting lights out there that will light up the majority of the major trees, and just go with the lighting part for now, and let the decorations come and go by those that offer to do it seasonally or holiday or whatever. And I don't think that the city should want to go out there and put out decorations for every holiday. You know, I mean, I think we have people that offer to do that, and as well as getting the businesses involved in putting their own Christmas trees out and decorating on the mall. I think that's a wonderful idea. So many businesses get involved doing that, and that place gets lit up, and it's a great area to walk through every year. So that's a good thing to get the city, the businesses involved. But as far as the city, I think we just with the bright bulbs like you talked about to illuminate the trees, the clean trees, and just do that and let the decorations to other people, because I don't think we want to get involved personally in picking and choosing and storing, stuff like that. That's just my opinion. Other than that, I wouldn't know what to pick anyway.
Well, the more you do in the line of what you've just said, the more participation there will be.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Last year, the guys put up those Christmas trees down at in front of the park and the shuffleboard, the round ones, but they just stuck the pole in the ground with the lights coming down. That's an inexpensive way, and you can do that, put 2 or 3 together and have a nice little area. You could do that at both ends and work it down. And you were talking about your banners. The banners, instead of putting them on the mall itself, put them on the sidewalk. You've got you've got the light posts on the sidewalks.
But they're only on the railroad tracks east. They're not on the railroad tracks west.
But there's the big concrete ones that you can do them on. You can put I've seen them done in other cities where they put the
Like banner
supports
poles?
on, and then you just put your banner on the concrete poles. You'd probably have to get permission from Duke Energy, but that can be done, and
Yeah.
you don't just do like every second pole or every other pole.
And the thing about the poles, though, is that they're not consistent either. There's, on the corners, some corners don't have those big poles, they were removed.
Right, but what I'm saying, if you do every other or every third with the banners, you're not gonna be, people aren't gonna notice that they're not the same. They're gonna be looking at the banner, they're not gonna be looking at the poles. See, how many people really realize that those black light posts are on the mall itself, on both sides, and also in the main part of town, on the sidewalks?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
They're on the sidewalks also.
Yeah.
That's where you should put your banners, is on your sidewalks. You know, and go and put them on those concrete poles at both ends.
I think it
Don't-
would depend on how
mo-
many we have, how many poles altogether, because I mean,
I
that's-
didn't count the poles today.
I personally like them on the black poles on the mall. I'm not wild about the sidewalk side of it, because, I mean, not only that, they're not all super tall, and you'll walk into some of them. The ones on the mall are a little shorter.
Well, okay, that's a point too, but you also walk into the crepe myrtles. You know, some of those branches are low. So, you know, they hang more over the street, and that's all parking anyway.
Mhm.
Those poles are back far enough from the street that they're not going to be in the street, and they're not going to be on the walking part of the sidewalk. You would hang your banners facing the street, not over the sidewalk. And they're back far enough. Those banners, they're only about this wide, you know, and about this long. They're not, you know, they're not going to be over a parking space, or they're not going to be over a walking space.
Yeah, I just
Because
think
you're
that
gonna
the
have 'em
proportion
tall
of a
enough.
little banner on a big, huge pole just doesn't look right to me. To me,
Well, you can work that out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, those are things. But I mean, in terms of the Christmas decorations, I mean, do we want to do something where we're going to go ahead and invest heavily on that, and then just maybe just lighting that stays on throughout the year like we have with the orbs? You know, we had talked about with Mrs. Hart at the last meeting that I had with her that, you know, if we end up storing anything, it needs to be air conditioned, because you just can't store it out in some garage, right?
Correct.
Or are we going to leave stuff on all year long that's easy to maintain? But she is right about the crepe myrtles. They do kind of hang low, and it does require a little bit of expertise, actually quite a bit of expertise to trim those. Otherwise, you're going to have shoots and suckers everywhere, and then they look worse than they look now. I'm not saying they look bad, but they could look really bad if they're not maintained well. But to me, when you talk about decorations, our landscape itself is a decoration, and I think that needs to be maintained. I know that on the South Side Triangle, there's a bougainvillea. There are actually 4 of them that are murderously dangerous with their big, huge thorns. So it's really difficult to decorate the pergola that's there because of the thorns and the bougainvillea. Maybe that tree needs to be removed and something different put in place to make that easier to take care of. And the bougainvillea itself is really hard to maintain because of the thorns.
Right.
I don't know what it looks like right now. I haven't driven down at night to see what it looks like.
They make a great security fence, though.
Yeah, but it still has-
Yeah.
You know, you guys can all come up here and talk in the microphone. We're not gonna bite you.
Like in front of Napa, in front of Jack O'Henda,
Yeah.
and the sidewalk of Black Poles.
I guess what we really need to do is figure out how much we're willing to spend. And I
Right.
mean, what did you, I mean, other than the CRA, I know that there was $14,000 in the mall budget.
In the mall budget? In
Yeah,
the
there was a
CRA
mall
fund?
maintenance, yeah. So,
Yes,
and then there
but
was.
part of that was taken up on what we gave to this
Right, but
chamber.
that was prorated. So they're not
understand.
getting the full-fledged 14,000 this year. They're gonna be getting
Right.
1166 per
I
month.
understand. We can't really talk about the CRA budget here.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but that budget money is what would be allocated that we could use for this, for the end game of decorating the mall. That'll give
I
them an
get it.
idea. So if they're gonna be using $1,166 a month until October, then the balance between that and 14,000 is what we have for lights. And maintenance or fertilizer or whatever else to kind of get everything in gear, trimming the trees to make them look decent and all.
Right.
And I know that the South Side budget has funding there for beautification as well, so they'd be able to use something out of their budget.
All I'm saying is if you get into the landscaping part of it, you're going to eat up all your money. I think we're talking about decorations, so let's focus on decorations. If we want to do another budget for For mall maintenance and for landscaping, that's fine, but
No, but
we're strictly talking about decoration.
I know, but if you're gonna be hanging lights on anything, you still need to shape up the trees and trim off whatever you need to make them look decent. You don't wanna just stick them up in a tree that has broken limbs or whatnot. You need to shape it, so maybe the city
They're
can
gonna
do
trim the
that part.
trees anyways.
Yeah, I mean, if there's then that can be off the city's budget, and then just focus on, you don't have to spend every dime, but, I mean, I'd like to see the gazebo done.
Yep.
I'd like to see the tippity-tip done, but I don't know if we can because of what's going on with the construction.
The pizza slice?
Yep.
Yeah, and then the the mall in front of Little Italy that has those beautiful oak trees.
Mhm.
You know, I think that would be really impactful, and depending on, you know, if we could have the orbs on one of those, or maybe just the one light shining up here or there, you could really do a lot with a little
All
from
right,
that end.
so here's what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna pick 4 places to focus on.
While you're thinking that, let me throw one more thing at you that we used to do here in Avon Park.
Okay?
When I was a kid, my dad used to put a pole on a raft and string lights down from it
Yeah.
and put it out in Lake Verona.
Yep.
And somewhere along the line, they just stopped doing that. I don't know, but Dad used to do that.
I have a floating pontoon boat in front of my house.
Yeah.
You can use it if you want it.
You got a long anchor on it,
I do.
okay? That's all you need, really.
Just have to put a tree on it.
Yeah.
Yep. And lights and some sort of
It was
power
about
source.
it was about a 10-foot pole that he did, and then just ran
Just
lights down from it.
Like a tree.
Yeah.
And that didn't cost hardly anything. And I honestly do not know how he ran the power out to it. I don't know how he did that.
That's everything. How you gonna power?
Because that was
Yep.
that was at least 100 foot of wire that he ran out there for the.
I thought they had an auto battery out there on that, pontoon.
Not the one I'm talking about. It was actually plugged in at Donaldson Park.
Wow.
So I don't know how Dad did it back in the 60s, but he did it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a solar, maybe.
Inverter and auto battery now.
Yeah.
Figured it out. All right, let's pick some sections and then let's have Anne Marie come up here.
Well, I'd like to finish the Jacaranda Mall. I think that could use a little bit more.
All right, well, let's start at the highway. That's the first one in the agenda here. So the highway, who wants to decorate the pizza slice and/or that front tip section?
When's construction gonna be done with this DOT thing?
That pizza slice isn't gonna be done where that marker is for another year. It's a mess up there.
Yeah,
It
there's,
really is.
Okay.
That'd be kind of a wasted effort there.
I wouldn't even deal with that section. I'd start there a little bit.
Okay, so you got Little Italy. Looking for it on here on the thing. That'd be next to Florida Avenue, right? On the next page over,
How
Yeah.
far are we going?
across
on
from the bank.
between Florida
Scroll it.
and DeSoto.
Yep. Okay.
this? Go ahead.
So that's number 1.
Okay.
Then you have the section in front of the community center, which I believe
There's nothing on it right now.
Anne Marie, it's part of your plan, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
The gazebo,
Gazebo for sure.
and also, you know, the one that has beautiful oaks in front of it, just for another comment, is the one in front of the tap room. That one has some beautiful trees.
While we're talking about the gazebo, I have a question. There are some palm trees around the gazebo that actually hide the structure from certain angles. I don't know when they were planted there or why, but do y'all want those palm trees around the gazebo?
The palm trees were planted because that's what's on the historic logo of the city, believe it or not. They were there years, decades ago, and then they were removed. If they were trimmed appropriately, then they wouldn't hide much.
Okay.
And the blueberry that's sitting there right now is supposed to be narrower and skinnier, not fat. So, and it's supposed to go all the way down to the ground. It's a perfect tree to trim, so it wouldn't be concealing so much. But that blueberry is also in the old historic logos of that. If you think the palm trees are in the way, then, you know, you can always replant them someplace else. But, you know, around there, it's typically decorated as well. But to me, if you decorate just the gazebo and give it spines on the top of its roof and give it, you know, the lights so that it has that dimension, it would really look nice.
A lot of the events we've had downtown's been in the gazebo. It's a real
Mhm.
popular spot to have a band, that sort of
Right.
thing. You
Yeah.
definitely need to be able to view it from all angles. So by all means, trim it up if you have to. If you do have to remove them,
I'm good with
you know,
that.
I'm all right with that.
I'll keep you posted.
Yep. Okay.
But can we leave the blueberry there and trim it and shape it nicely?
The right way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 4 positions that we have now are in between the bank and Little Italy. in between the community center and the building that's across the street from it, the brick building. Then you have the gazebo, and you have in front of City Hall. Does that sound like 4 areas we need to focus on?
Sounds great with me.
Any disagreement here?
What was the third one you said? I'm sorry, right before City Hall?
The gazebo.
Florida and DeSoto, which was the, in front of the community center was the other one?
Correct.
And right now, those are 3 blank squares. There's just
Correct.
grass. So
Which
last
I-
year we had little, you're doing that one?
She's got something to do with it. She's going to tell us about it here in a minute.
Yeah. Hi, Anna Marie Feeney, 234 East Camphor Street, Avon Park. For the last, except for last year, the last 4 years previous to that, I've been doing a thing on Main Street called Christmas on the Mall. It's been 100% volunteer. The only thing the city's provided is a base budget to which I've been able to turn around and encourage the businesses, get advertising for Main Street. It's all been in that nominal budget. And this is a month-long event. The businesses get involved. They bring their own trees out onto Main Street. They have signs in front of their trees, so it gives them the feeling like they're back in the community again. And people come out to see those trees and take pictures in front of those trees. Last year, I was asked why wasn't I out there again. I said, that's not my choice. I'm just a volunteer.
All right, and just on this one particular area that we're talking about in front of the community center, what exactly did you have planned for that spot?
Okay. Originally, when I started doing the designs for Christmas on the Mall, that was Santa Claus Square. And originally, we built a stage with a canopy, and Santa was out there every weekend visiting with children, giving them toys, and it was great. We had, on our last year on Main Street, we had almost 700 people visit Santa on that little stage, and then in the little shed that we put out in front of the community center. That last year, we had almost 700 people visit. Unfortunately, there was an issue, I don't know what it was, and frankly, it's not my concern, but the shed was, someone said they didn't want the shed anymore, and we were all moved into the Chamber of Commerce office. It's a beautiful room, and they decorate it nicely, but at night, it's next to invisible to see. They've tried putting lights in front of it. Our attendance went down to 80 this year. I would like to see Santa back on Main Street. I think the fact that we have, Sebring has the circle, and they have that little cute little house that Santa sits in front of. Okay? Our children here in Avon Park shouldn't have to go all the way to Sebring to see Santa. I think we're better than that. And that's why I'd like to see Santa's workshop put back out on Main Street on that square in front of the community center.
I think Santa Claus would love to visit the gazebo.
Okay. Now, I was told about this, but like I said, I'm just a volunteer.
Yep.
There's a liability issue with people climbing up and down those steps, especially, you got to understand, we turn around and actually put up a ramp on Santa's shed, so if a child in a wheelchair shows up, they can get to see Santa too.
Santa Claus can come down and meet him.
Yeah, why can't Santa come
Okay.
down?
Not a problem.
'Cause we
Then
already
you've
have
got a
structure.
fully blank space out there. I got that. It's cool. The next is Candy Cane Lane. That's the businesses. The businesses bring out their trees.
Okay.
Armed Forces trees, the Veteran Square, that's done by the Battle of the Bands. We will be adding 2 more trees to the Armed Forces trees display this year. One will be a Blue Star tree and one will be a Gold Star tree. We've already bought the dog tags to have them engraved as loved ones want to turn around and put their family's names, their loved ones' names on a dog tag. They'll be available. We're working on the logistics on how to get them out to everyone. Battle of the Bands will also be doing the toy drive again this year. And the toy drive goes to the 3 area hospitals for children in distress. And then where the gazebo is normally School Spirit Way. And that's where the local schools come out and put their trees up. Gingerbread Lane also is for businesses, churches, and other organizations in the city who want to participate. We will be having one Volunteers Day, and that'll be November 16th. Pretty much all of the infrastructure's in, and it's just a matter of getting the finishing touches on, so we invite the public to come out and help us finish it up. There was a concern about the fact that the trees, even though they all started out when we started Christmas on the Mall, as time passed, people were changing up their trees a little too much. Well, I've reorganized the application where they have to be minimally, for aesthetic and security reasons, they minimally have to be 7 foot tall and pre-lit. So we're going to see, at last count at Christmas on the Mall, we had almost 90 trees from local businesses and organizations lining Main Street. And they'll be back. They'll be back. I'll go out there and make sure they're all back.
Okay, do we have any comments on anything she's saying so far?
I would just ask you, on the School Spirit Way, I know that that mall is huge and not all, I mean, it leaves a lot of empty space. What if you put that in front of the community center, where it's right now a clean slate and electrical was put there?
That would work fine. Actually, I prefer that, especially if we're moving Santa
Yeah, that
to
way.
the
if you
gazebo.
do- that
I
way,
would prefer that,
if we
because you're
do
going to
the
have people
gazebo,
walking around.
It's separate from that.
And then, if, I'm hoping that Santa's line will get long real quick, I think the trees might be in the way there. So we could move it to that flat square across from the community center.
I think that's a good idea.
Maybe more visible there too.
Yeah.
Yes, they
Because
would.
there's nothing there right now.
Right.
There
The
is,
Drake elms were removed.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I've given you the budget that I've turned around and calculated. Remember, this is a month-long event. This money, once it's allocated, there's not going to be any, I need more of this, I need more of that. I'll make do with what we have. And this also includes $1,000 of advertising.
Whose money is this gonna come out of?
That's,
CRA.
From the CRA? Oh, we can't discuss that here, right?
Mm-mm.
Well, you can't discuss if you're going to fund it with CRA, but you can discuss the plan that she
Yeah.
has here.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
The last item here for the $500, what is this?
because as things happen, when I turn around and go up to that barn and try to figure out what was done as far as supplies go from last year, because I gave them an inventory list 2 years ago, and then last year I didn't participate in the decorations. I don't know what I'm going to find up there. There may be extension cords or lights that I have to flat out replace.
And
So-
I'll say something about that. I know that you drive down to the radio place, you drive down to the newspaper place, you go buy decorations, you fix decorations, you do a lot of things that otherwise the city staff would be doing. I think $5 is a pittance. I think that is,
500.
it's.
500.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 500
I
is
agree.
relatively inexpensive for all the work that's put into this, even if you did it at $4 an hour. And I just say that because Annie does do more than expected. She's out there shoveling stuff, laying electrical things, putting things underground, making sure the rebar's in place, you know, cleaning up and all that
Well,
stuff.
I did
So-
see something that was very heartening to me. I saw a raised electrical outlet on Veterans Square. I saw that today, and I was very happy about that, because usually I have to go in the underground outlets and clean them out. And breakers blow a lot. So the outlets being raised is something that I really, really, really appreciate.
Annie,
Because
can I throw something in here?
Sure.
You know, one of our other veterans locations is the Southside Veterans Triangle, which
Yes.
does have electrical and all that stuff. And I know that
Absolutely.
it could have some, usually, I don't know if a patriotic theme, but I know that there is a particular resident on the south side that typically decorates that. And I think that should be something that we need to be including in our decorations, because it is a park after all, and it does have a little
It's
couple
true.
of benches in there, and it's heavily used. That connection between Helmut Gray and the south side neighborhoods, I think, is driven a lot. I mean, I'm sure everybody that goes into the south side uses
Yes.
that. But anyway, I think that needs to be added to our list, and that not necessarily maybe CRA money, but I know that there should be some city money for that. But, you know, I like the idea of the tree, you know, with all that. So maybe we can discuss that, or you can talk to that with David, and maybe the Southside residents might want to help out with that
Absolutely. I have
decoration.
no problem with that at all. There was a couple of other things that were thrown out at me, and I figure I'll just bring them up real quick. Someone discussed a 10 or 15 or 20-foot wreath be placed on the front of City Hall. I think that's an amazing idea.
There is a wreath on the front of City Hall.
There is one. What is it about? It's about 10 feet.
Where?
Yeah,
It's up above the door.
yeah.
You can't put it over the door, it hangs right off
Yep.
the.
If-
balcony.
If you want to talk, we need to get your comments in the,
I didn't see it, okay?
It just isn't illuminated. It's just a big green.
That's what it is. It's not illuminated.
It's lit.
It wasn't lit last time it was up.
If the lights might
ma'am,
go out,
ma'am,
but it
come
wasn't
up, come up. to the
Come on up
microphone.
here, Rosie.
Need the comments in the microphone, please.
It was lit. Now, where it plugs into, because we light your trees at City Hall, the Garden Club lights those trees at City Hall. We put out the extension cords, all except for one, I think. We put timers and plug all of it into timers so that they all come on at the same time. Those palm trees, the Christmas trees that we put there, and the wreath that's up on top. Now, if the lights go out, we can't get up there because we have to rely on the city to get up there to fix it.
Right there.
We have, and the lights did go out on it last year on the bottom half, but there is no,
How big is it?
unless there's a work order or whatever, we
From
can't
EDU.
get that fixed.
About 60 inches,
Yeah.
probably 5 foot.
It's beautiful.
That's what she's talking about, but it is
Garden
lit,
Club does that.
and it is on timers, and it does come on with all the rest
Yeah,
of
put some
them.
lights on
And
the
that,
building.
that thing's this
Shining lights
big
showing up.
across.
I never saw it. I'm sorry, Rosie.
And there's a big one in the back too.
Yeah.
Because we want the back
one
of
on
the
each
city
side.
hall to look as good as the front of the city hall.
There you go.
'Cause
We
everybody
appreciate
needs
that
to
very
use
much.
both. Huh?
I like that idea.
Yes, so do I. I'm glad you thought of it. No. So there are always last-minute things that happen when you go to decorate. Everybody knows that last 2 or 3 trips to Walmart or some other store to pick something up because something stopped working. And that's part of the miscellaneous.
Okay.
I missed not doing it last year. And I really want to see Avon Park lit up from end to end. And I think all of us working together, it's going to happen real quick.
Does anyone have anything to say to Anne Marie? Any comments, any proposed changes, anything they'd like to see?
Well, other than just changing the School Spirit Way to in front of the community center and then letting the gazebo take on the same kind of theme that's going to be in front of the Jack, I think is
Right.
kind of where we're going to go with that. So what you were saying was the one Florida and DeSoto, which is the one in front of Little Italy, and then you've got, she's going to do the community center. So now, do we have another spot now that opened up since she's going to be doing the community center one? Or
Well, the
how
question
is the
comes down.
funding going to
The
come
question
back?
comes down to what are we actually doing? And if you look at what
Oh,
has actually
one-
been discussed, is banners, shining lights, orbs, but mainly overall just more light.
Mhm.
So you can do that all the way down the mall. There's really, because we're not really doing any decorations.
Right. So no wooden things this year. The two-dimensional little critters. We've got those two-dimensional pieces of wood that,
Rosie and I were just discussing that a couple of seconds ago.
Here's a good idea for those wooden
Museum
cutouts.
Avenue?
Okay, they've been in the city for a long time, and they evidently were donated by families or they were made by someone that it's important to the city. So they should be there somehow, some way. One thought that I have is all the deer. Okay, you've got that beautiful scrub area on the mall, up at the west end. Put all the deer like they're coming out of that scrub and use those spotlights and light them up so that you can see them at night, because you can't see any of those at night.
well, Rosie, could you take a look at what we have and, not put the one with the cows with udders saying, have an utterly Merry Christmas and, let's.
They're all out
you know,
there
Can
at
we
the
do
water
something a little
tower.
different at the tip? I just think it's time for a change, have something a little more elegant at the tip of Highway 27
think
and
so
the
too.
Cowboy Santa riding the horse. I think it's time for it to go to a different location in town, but that's just me.
Maybe a Santa Claus shooting one of those deer, one strung up perhaps.
Next to
Baby,
it,
I'm
next
all,
to it.
I'm all for
I mean,
that.
I think that those were all great donations over time, but it might be time to start looking at those as a backup plan for
Be on the
Christmas
radio for it,
decoration.
Mayor.
Well, you know, you've got Donaldson Park too. You could put those,
Right.
you could put those cutouts down there
but
in
then
Donaldson Park, and that would be a good place
It
for him
would-
to go.
You know what, and that's one of the things that I'd like to see in the future is just have that Donaldson Park completely done in lights, but that's gonna be a
I
whole different thing.
absolutely agree. I just think that
wanna do-
we've got our plate full for this year.
Yeah.
We've got more than we're actually going to get done already.
Rosie and I were just talking, and since she definitely is enthralled with making sure the wood cutouts get done, Jean Jordan charged me with taking care of them, and I'm going to turn it over to Rosie. So that way, the city and Rosie can work on that, on where to put them.
Okay.
Great.
Oh, one more side thing.
And they
I ju-
require lighting, they require digging up trenches for the electrical cords and stuff, so there's a lot of work involved with those, and I think we need to decide if we're gonna go that route along with all this extra work here. I don't wanna overkill our staff, because they are limited in numbers as well, so if we do just the animals and the nature areas and stuff like that, I'm good with that, that's just me, but, look, I think it's time to move on. I think a lot of those cutouts just look,
Well, that's where you should. That's where you should take and put your solar lights. Is on those. You would only need one or two, and they're like $12 a piece at Big Odds at Christmas time.
I know, but there's 100 of those
But
things.
no, but you don't have that many of those animals that you would group together.
Yeah.
You could use 2 for 8 animals, you know, in that one spot. And you know, you've got your palm trees lit up there anyway. So all you're doing is coming out. All the palm trees have lights on them.
The sables do, but not the little ones.
Oh, but
The ones
no.
with boots don't
All
have
the big
lights.
ones do.
Only the big
Yeah.
ones.
But anything where that scrub is, no, none of that scrub is done.
I don't know that there's electrical in that scrub.
If you use those solar lights, you don't need electrical, and you're talking about $12 a light.
Well, like, you need
And
to
it
check
takes
with
a ba-
David
and
on
it
that
takes a
one.
battery.
I'm okay with the animal thing. I just think it's time to move on from the little,
I agree with you on that. I think a lot of people said some of that stuff needs to go. It just seems,
something fresh.
yes.
Yeah, we're looking for something fresh.
more amazing and
Right.
new.
I was hearing that for a couple of years too, but I promised the garden club that they made me swear that I would put them up every year. I just kept trying to find more novel places to put them.
She's Hibiscus. You're talking about the Founders. They're two separate clubs.
All right.
You're Founders. The Hibiscus is who owns those?
Now, there is an issue with the cutouts anyway. It seems that last year, individuals borrowed some of the wood cutouts, and they have not been returned yet, and they have to be returned.
Yep. To be determined.
There's a big pile laying in the back of that barn.
Ma'am, you're gonna have to come up if you want to make comments.
Rosie, we can talk about this
Move your
Yep.
chair
This
closer.
is. Yep. You got plenty of
Okay.
time afterwards.
I just want to go to where we start limiting the cutouts
Right.
and start
Well, there's certain
emphasizing-
ones that were taken that concern me, and those are the 9-foot-high wooden soldiers. They, chill.
Well, if they're spread all over town,
Yeah,
then that's
and
something
that's
that-
not a good thing. No, they're in one
brought
particular
back.
location.
Yeah.
They've got to be requested to be returned.
But I don't want the city to become the leftovers of Christmas things.
Yeah.
Then we end up looking hodgepodge, we don't have the uniformity. You know, I just think that it's time to start moving to something more elegant. And those will be nice in maybe some church yard or, you know.
Well, what I'm thinking
particular
about
areas.
is the school where the children's trees are. They would look, they would be appropriate. Wherever the children are, the toy soldiers should, you know.
Oh, toy soldiers are something different, but I'm just saying, all the other cutouts, it's,
That's Rosie. I'm just concerned about the
Yeah.
toy soldiers, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
Also, on another quick side note, and then I'm going to sit myself down, I'm asking the city manager and the council to please, 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 in your thinking, consider a time and place where we can get together about those chess and checkerboards. I have one that's already pre-ordered for the south side and 2 for Veteran Square.
you pre-ordered them without knowing where they're
Now,
gonna go?
if you don't use them, they'll get used. But my intention is to bring them to Avon Park.
Okay, what exactly are you requesting of the city? Just permission to place them?
Basically,
or for
basically,
finance?
no, where they would go would probably require a 10 by 10 concrete slab,
Oh, I see.
just to put them down on. That's it.
Can I request one thing, Annie?
No.
No, well, just stop buying stuff before we don't have, before we
No,
have
no,
a
no, no,
location
no,
for
no.
it.
Like I said, if the city does not want to use them, I got no problem with that. They'll get used. My first intention is to bring them to the city of Avon Park.
Maybe at the park, at Donaldson Park, if there's a location there, but then again, who's gonna take care of the,
Yep.
the objects to play with, or if it ends up being at the museum?
No, 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 no. We're supplying the boards. People come with their own.
Oh, okay.
It's just concrete chess and
Yep.
checkerboards.
All you gotta do is put together the specification list, give it to David, he'll
Maybe
mull it
in
over.
maybe in our new pocket park that we're going to do by the Wild Building.
Maybe.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
All righty. So,
Are we gonna decide on that amount she's asking? One,
we can't because it's CRA money and this ain't a CRA meeting.
okay.
So, we have to do that at our next CRA meeting, providing that we have, we have plenty of time. Providing that we have all the numbers back from City Hall on what it's actually gonna cost to get all this extra lighting and everything. So we're gonna be dependent on you to go in there and give us a little rough estimate on what's gonna be. See if the staff can actually get it done. Obviously, some of it can be done relatively easily, but some of it sounds like it's be pretty labor intensive.
Well, we will be in a new budget year at that time, at Christmas time as well, just saying.
Yep.
One thing to consider also, just for future thinking, is, right after the holidays, all these lights go on sale. And it wouldn't be a bad idea that we set some money aside for January, or, so that when everything goes on sale, we can run up to whatever store may have some stuff that we're already using and save it for the next season.
Yeah. Well,
We might
that's
be able to get
also,
some of that donated too.
Yeah,
yeah, that's also assuming that you're using those, consumer goods.
right.
A lot of this stuff is more infrastructure type, not really.
We might be able to get some of
Everyday.
those lights donated before Christmas. If somebody makes a list and brings a nonprofit organization to the place where I work out of,
And
I think they would donate.
Jim, you bring up a really good idea. I know that the DOT owns Main Street, and you have to have, if you want to put up a little sign that someone donated something, I think that it would be very nice that if we had, this mall donated by, or, this section decorated by, and then put those little signs out on the mall during that time of the season. Can we do that? Would we be able to do that on this state-owned highway? And I
Yes.
would think so,
We maintain it.
right, so if that's the case, maybe if there are businesses that want to get involved with it, maybe
I'm
they'll.
sure our current city attorney would agree that we can do that.
Okay, well, just,
Anna Marie
if we
Feeney.
can.
Year before last, and a couple of years before that, Santa Claus Square, when we couldn't put Santa out there anymore, we did sponsors trees. And several of the local businesses actually paid $200 to have a tree decorated for them with their sign in front of it. We won't be doing that this year because that's where the school trees are going to be going. But it was a great way. We actually were able to put some of the money from the budget back in by doing that.
Okay. All right. So, we have a somewhat clear way of moving forward.
Can we go over the four again? So it was one, the Florida and DeSoto Mall, which is in front of Little Italy, right?
Yep.
The community center block, the gazebo area block, and the city hall block.
Yep.
Okay, but, yes.
Come on.
I'll take that there somewhere. Because you're making up the choices here. Okay.
Name and address, please.
Shelley Hynett, 131 North Verona Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've made your four choices, but I have one question for you. Are we trying to bring in people to Avon Park to see the beautiful decorations? If so, don't we need to somewhat do something closer to 27? Yes, I understand there's construction going on, but there's a beautiful little fountain there.
Right.
Can we start with that section first, and then you guys can pick your other three?
You're actually thinking where I was. If we're talking about doing the gazebo, but Annie is doing the gazebo, so why can't we take the funding from that? I'm not the gazebo, the part in front of the community
Community
center.
center.
If she's going to be doing that, that takes it off of our list.
I understand, but if you look at what we're actually doing, we're doing banners, shining lights, and things like that. We're not actually putting in decorations. We're not
No,
putting
no.
in decorations.
No, I'm thinking lights.
By
I
the
mean,
fountain in front, by the 27, you could
Yeah.
probably put some floodlights on that, end of story, just some
Yeah.
color to say, hey, look, I'm going down 27, looky here, we see some color, wonder what's down here. Boom, there they come. My
Right.
thought.
I think it's a
Not
great
much.
idea.
I like that idea,
It's
too.
just a light here or there.
As long as the fountain's working.
Yeah.
That's right, the fountain sometimes
This is your
doesn't work.
third and last chance.
Actually, my thought is that tree that you put in front of City Hall, that's strictly just a metal pole and lights, why not do one of them? We can make it as tall as we want. It's gonna be non-effective to the wind, really.
Yeah.
And we can turn around and just put that pole up. I mean, if they can put
Is there
telephone
still-
poles and all this,
is
why
there still
can't we
one
put a
big-
pole up and just,
Rosie, is there still a big Duke Energy pole on that triangle?
It's a double pole.
Is it a double? Because, I mean, that was one where they were talking about putting stringing the lights down from that, and that would be right at the tip of Main
You
Street,
talking about on the pizza slice?
on the pizza slice.
Yeah, there is one there.
It's
There
a,
is one.
it's a double. It's one pole with two
Yeah,
lights.
I just don't know how long it is from the curb, where you'd have like a skinny side
Yeah.
of that tree and a big fat side on
Right,
the
you don't
other.
have a whole lot of-
you'd have to make it symmetrical, that's
Yeah.
all the way around.
It would be very skinny.
Yeah. It really doesn't look great right now. There's not a whole lot you can do with it.
Yeah,
at the
but just
current moment.
going in a little bit, there's a couple of trees in there that you can
Yeah.
do something with.
There,
or-
there's quite a bit of room by the fountain
Right.
that
Yeah.
Shelley was talking about. I mean, you can do quite a bit there, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of trees in between that fountain and the tip
Right,
of 27.
that need to be cleaned out. Some of those are just, there's scrubby in there, and it just needs to be a little bit, just beautified a
Yeah,
bit. But
I
that
mean,
goes back to the
That's
main.
a
We're
major
talking about adding-
project for next,
Hmm?
that's a major project for our next budget.
Yeah,
Is
as
cleaning
soon,
up
as
the
soon as
mall.
all the construction's done, I'm sure we're gonna go in there and clean that whole thing up.
Which reminds me, when they go to fix it all up, are they gonna leave us with, do we have the ability to put some electrical outlets out there and stuff? Because it didn't have it in the past. Before they're done, can we lay some electrical lines in there and get it ready for the next year?
I'll find out.
As far west as possible to wherever they end that thing. I don't think it's been bored unless you can get it off of that big power pole on the pizza slice. There's no electrical there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that was one of the issues that the city had in the past, that they couldn't put irrigation there because there was no electrical either.
Right.
So, I mean, now is the time to get that done, since it's a mess. Why not be able to do that now? But wherever you can get power, I think we're better off,
Yep.
and irrigation for that matter.
Okay. David, are you clear on what we want you to do?
Clear as mud.
Clear as mud. Got it. Do you need anything else further from council?
Nope, I'll give me a couple of meetings and I'll have a bunch of figures for you, hopefully by the end of May.
Sounds good. There was talk about talking to Duke and possibly upgrading lights. You got that noted?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can give you engineer's name and number if you like.
Would you please?
Sure.
Okay. Is there anything else on Christmas decorations?
No, but I'd like to thank everybody in the audience that showed up tonight. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. We thank you very much for showing up. We hope to hear more great ideas from you in the future. If there's nothing else for the good of the city, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Seeing no opposition, we are adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My daughter turns 18 tomorrow.
Uh-oh.
Really?